there has to be some common sense.
Yes, sir. They have the car stopped at 10th and Ranch Microbizer.
We still don't know who pulled the trigger.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, Bill Cannon. I'm a retired 27-year veteran of the NYPD, retired sergeant. And with me tonight, straight out of Brooklyn, retired NYPD detective, Phil Grimaldi. How's it going tonight, Phil?
Pretty good, Billy. How about you?
Pretty good. You know, there's been a lot of new information in regards to the shooting that occurred in Brooklyn at 8:26 this morning on the N train subway car. And some of the information and some of the evidence that they recovered is a bit disturbing, as are the 10 people who were shot. 16 people, I believe, were taken to area hospitals for smoke inhalation and other injuries. And in fact, the police commissioner is having a press conference right now. I want to play a little bit of that because I think it's better off coming out of the horse's mouth than us secondhand.
Absolutely.
Let me put a little of this press conference on, and we'll hear it right from the police commissioner. When it goes to the mayor, I'm going to cut away from the mayor because the mayor, I watched some of it. The mayor's coming up with political nonsense, blaming the gun again and not the perpetrator.
Yeah, he we'll talk about him.
Yeah, I can't stomach that, and I'm not going to stomach it. I'm not going to play it. You know, it's just pathetic.
Also found is a liquid we believe to be gasoline and a bag containing consumer-grade fireworks and a hobby fuse. About an hour ago, detectives located a U-Haul van in Brooklyn that we believe is connected to the suspect. At this time, we still do not know the suspect's motivation. Clearly, this individual boarded the train and was intent on violence. We are conducting a highly coordinated investigation that includes NYPD detectives, the FBI NYPD Joint Terrorism Task Force, and the ATF, who have been instrumental in tracing the firearm and ballistics. The suspect is a dark-skinned male and was wearing a neon orange vest and a gray-colored sweatshirt. We do have a person of interest in this investigation, but we need the public assistance with additional information. We're asking anyone with information to call Crime Stoppers at 800-577-TIPS. We know this incident is of grave concern to New Yorkers. We cannot lose sight of victims in this city. We will use every resource we can to bring those to justice who continue to prey on the citizens of New York. I'll ask Chief James Essick to come in and give details of the investigation.
This is the chief of detectives.
Good evening, everybody. Today at 8:24 a.m., aboard a Manhattan-bound N train, 10 people were shot, 7 males, 3 females, and they were removed to area hospitals. An additional 13 people suffered injuries related to smoke inhalation, falling down, or a panic attack. The information I'm about to give you is preliminary, and it's subject to change right now. As that N train was between stations 59th Street and the 36th Street stations, seated in the second car in the rear corner was a dark-skinned male. Various descriptions of his height are given. He is heavy-set, wearing an orange-green nylon-type construction vest. He also had on a gray hoodie, a surgical mask, and a neon green construction helmet. As the train approached the 36th Street station, witnesses state the male opened up 2 smoke grenades, tossed them on the subway floor, brandishes a Glock 9mm handgun. He then fired that weapon at least 33 times, striking 10 people. The male then fled the scene, and detectives are actively trying to determine his whereabouts. Recovered at that scene was a Glock 17 9mm handgun, 3 extended Glock-type magazines. One was still in the weapon, one under a seat, and one in a backpack. We had 33 discharged shell casings, 15 bullets, 5 bullet fragments, 2 detonated smoke grenades, 2 non-detonated smoke grenades, a hatchet, a black garbage can, a black milk type style rolling cart, the gasoline, and a U-Haul key. The U-Haul key at the scene led us to the recovery of a U-Haul van a short while ago in Brooklyn. The male, who we believe is the renter of this U-Haul in Philadelphia, is a Frank R. James, male, 62 years old, with addresses in Wisconsin and Philadelphia. We are endeavoring to locate him to determine his connection to the subway shooting, if any. The 2 crime scenes, the subway and the van, are very active and are still being processed. We are asking for anyone's help with information, cell phone video, witness information, or any, if they can identify the perpetrator or the renter of this vehicle, to call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-577-TIPS. There is a $50,000 reward out right now. $25,000 from the New York City Police Foundation, $12,500 from the MTA, and $12,500 from the TWA Local 100. I just want to assure everyone that we in the NYPD have all our resources working this, along with our partners in the FBI and the ATF, to find this perpetrator. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Mike Driscoll. The mayor? Okay. Okay.
Folks, I'm going to skip the mayor. I'm going to go through, but I'm going to bypass him because he talks a lot of nonsense. He blames guns, and that's not what we're here today. We're here to find the guy who shot these people, not stand up there and start blaming guns. And I think that's pathetic. And I'm going to skip him. I'm going to go right to the chief of the FBI.
He's showing his
New York
true
office.
colors, Billy. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. Wait, let me just. I'm going to put the FBI, the agent in charge of the New York office, on the screen, and we'll play a little of this.
I also want to echo the thanks for the partnership to the NYPD, the ATF, and all the partners who are contributing to this investigation. Right now, the FBI NYPD Joint Terrorism Task Force is fully engaged with this investigation, providing assistance through manpower, technical assistance, and basically everything we can throw at it. We expect the process to be a long one as we gather all possible information to track down all possible leads. And I would encourage you, as it was mentioned earlier, to please reach out to the NYPD tip line at 1-800-577-TIPS. And I would also add, as frequently the case in many of our current investigations, everyone's got a cell phone in their pocket. There's a lot of video out there. If you have digital information that you'd like to share with us in connection with this investigation, please visit fbi.gov/Brooklyn shooting, where you can upload that information. So we are seeking the public's help. You heard mentioned before of a name of possible interest. Videos would be particularly helpful, or any other additional witnesses who have yet to come forward that can provide information that might help this investigation. So thank you for your participation, and I thank everyone for their partnership in the course of the investigation. Thank you.
Take a couple of questions.
You know, I just wanted to talk about one of the reasons we cut away from the mayor was I watched it before, and it was total gibberish, total nonsense, blaming guns and blaming, we're going to stop the river of violence with the stream of like he's trying to talk like he's a poet. Like, dude.
Bill, he's not even on the scene, Bill. He should be ashamed of himself. He's the mayor of New York City. He should put 2 masks on. He's vaccinated. He has the booster shot. Get out there. Could you possibly picture Rudy Giuliani or someone of his caliber not running to the scene of this thing? I don't care what he's got. Put on 2 masks. He's outside and he stays away from everybody. And he shows that he's a leader of the city. He's acting like a coward. I'm sorry to say it. He's a retired police captain. Let's go. Get on the scene and get with it instead of trying to make a political statement. I'm sorry I'm getting excited, Bill, but he's just pissing me off. I think he's showing no leadership at all. We had hope for this guy. He's one of our own. Where is he? This is obviously some type of a terrorist attack. He needs to be out front and center. I don't care about COVID. He had it days ago. He's on an antiviral. He's got masks. Let's go. Get with it, Mr. Mayor.
You know, Phil, one of the things, though, I think that in this instance, if he is homesick, stay there and shut up. Let the police commissioner, who is very qualified to handle this, who is very articulate and is on the scene, plugged into the investigation, let her speak. I'm so tired of these politicians getting mileage. Governor Hochul was there this morning. She's another, I mean, it's pathetic. And the head of the MTA, who is a frequent criticizer of the police, he's getting his mileage at the mic too. Get off the mic. We don't want to see you people. This is a police incident. This is an investigation. This is the FBI, the JTF, the ATF, the NYPD. Get away from the mics, you politicians.
Listen, look, let's talk about the incident. I'm really fired up about this. I disagree. I think he should be on the scene, sick or not, but let's talk about what we know. What we know is this: someone entered a train, detonated smoke bombs, and then opened up on people. And thank God, from what I'm understanding, that his gun jammed. That's probably what saved a lot of lives. It's amazing, Billy. It's amazing. A 9mm Glock, and no one is DOA. Thank God. All of these people look like they're going to recover. Even the smoke inhalation injuries don't seem to be critical, where people are going to lose their lives. It's amazing. From what I'm reading and what I'm hearing, on the news reports, he rented this U-Haul in Philadelphia, but he has addresses in Philadelphia as well as Wisconsin. I am sure the NYPD, the greatest detectives in the world, will work in conjunction with the FBI, ATF, and they will find this scumbag.
You know, Phil, I think I just want everyone to be aware. The name Frank R. James as the individual who rented the vehicle, we don't know right now if he had anything to do with this. He may have just have rented this van, and we don't know specifically. And they found the keys to this van. Did they match the picture of Frank R. James with the shooter on the subway? Because people also have they had video of the shooter without his gas mask on. So there's a good chance they have his face, a picture of him, and they're trying to make an idea. I don't know. And even the police commissioner said, we don't know if, in fact, Frank R. James is involved in this. We just know that he's the renter of the van, and of which the keys were found in the crime scene.
Right. Now, they're going to try and match up. Like you said, they have video from the scene. They'll have tremendous amounts of video where that train exits. I was a transit cop in that district. I know the station. I know the area. There's going to be a ton of video cameras up on the street. The video cameras apparently in the station weren't working. I don't know if the video cameras on the train, whether or not they were working, but I did confirm with someone that I know that works for the transit authority that the video cameras at the station were out. Not all of them, some of them, but I think the ones on that platform, that area, were not working. However, the train did travel to two different locations. It went, after it stopped at 36th Street, it went on to 25th Street. That's where you see all the people exiting from the train. I think the train crew did a great job getting the people out of there. There were people that were severely injured. You just showed some pictures where people had heavy duty wounds, loss of blood from their extremities and stuff. So, and then you've seen the best of New York. You've seen people who probably were placing themselves in danger. However, they were rendering first aid to these people, helping these people that were injured. I saw one person leaning on a person's leg, a male leaning on another male's leg, applying pressure to the wound. That's first aid as we know it. And again, people are going to be heroic in these situations. They're going to fight back. They're not going to just run, cut and run. I applaud those people. I applaud all of the investigators. They've learned so much in the few hours since this whole thing took place. They're putting a name to the renter of the U-Haul van, possibly involved, Frank James, as you said earlier. So things are moving quickly. There's a very liquid situation in this investigation. I am sure there's going to be a ton of video evidence in this case. Like I said, I know the area upstairs on 4th Avenue where this train, where the train stopped and where people would have exited from the train. 36th Street as well is also along 4th Avenue in Brooklyn. Tons of stores, with security cameras. Plus, there are a lot of traffic cameras along that area of Brooklyn, 4th Avenue, 3rd Avenue. All that area has a lot of traffic cameras. That's the direct route into downtown Brooklyn and across into Manhattan. So there's going to be a ton of video evidence, I'm sure of it.
You know, folks, some of the people said I covered this earlier in the day, and I identified the description of the perpetrator as a 5'3" 170 to 180 pound male black. I said that, and I think that's important to say. And if he was a
Very
male white,
important.
if he's a male white, I think it's important to say that. If he's a male Asian, a male Indian, whatever his ethnicity is important because we want to catch this guy. However, the woke press decides to skip the race of that. And I would never do that. I was a cop for 27 years. I know how important it is to get the description, an accurate description out there, and not just to the police force, but to the public also. So by the press saying it's a male wearing, describing his clothing, that is not helpful. So wokeness,
Especially, Billy, I don't mean to cut you off, but I got to just interject, especially when you can narrow down and know that the person is black. You know that he's an African-American black individual. Now, when we went through the police academy and we came out and we did our training, you needed, when you responded to a robbery or burglary, whatever it is, and you're getting a description, you want to know white, black, Hispanic, Oriental, whatever it is, Asian, Indian, whatever. And you put that information out immediately. The purpose of that is what, Billy? The purpose of that is so that other units in the area can possibly apprehend this person. So why would we say male, dark skin? No, we're going to say male, black, white, Hispanic, whatever it is. And again, the police commissioner in the early stages of this, the first press conference, she was asked that. She said a dark skinned male, and somebody said, well, is it a male, black, or Hispanic? She said the race of the person is not important. I think that's wrong. I didn't see this press conference. That's what somebody told me. I don't know it to be 100% true, but if that's the case, a lot of the news media outlets are just completely ignoring the race of the person that's wanted. Obviously, you can tell by the picture that they put up, the person they're talking about, Frank James, is an African-American male, and he needs to be described as such. I mean, just saying male, that's, 50% of the population. Come on, guys.
but Phil, again, Frank James may not be the perpetrator in this.
Right.
There's a lot of investigation to still go. Frank Marsha, the gun wasn't the only weapon. This person also had a hatchet. He was there to do a lot of damage and kill people. Thank God no one was killed, and thank God the gun jammed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's very good point. Very important, folks. I just want to sort of elaborate on the where the investigation is going. One of the things and it's an exhaustive search, but somehow the perpetrator got out of that subway and escaped somehow. Did he escape on foot? Did he have that van close by, and did he jump into that van and used it to get away? However, there will be an exhaustive canvas for video, as Phil had alluded to before. The other thing, there are items left on the scene. The gun, for example. Not only can we try to fingerprint the gun, but we can also try to get DNA off that gun to make a positive identification. He left the smoke bombs. They potentially could have his fingerprints on them. I believe there was 2 detonated and another 2 or 3 that were undetonated. Right. So he left his fingerprints on those. So forensic evidence will track that. And, DNA and forensic evidence is some of the best right now. And the new NYPD crime scene unit is probably one of the best in the world. They mentioned this U-Haul van that was recovered, that the keys were to a man named Frank James. They're going over that U-Haul van with a fine-tooth comb. They're going to dust it. They're going to try to get DNA. They're going to try to get fingerprints. So the forensic end of this is tremendous. And folks, one of the things about all these investigations, things that you think are true early on in the investigation sometimes turn out to be false.
Right.
And it's just that's the nature of investigation. There was also a report that a credit card was left on the scene in the property left by the perpetrator. And that apparently was used to rent this U-Haul. It could, in fact, be in the name of Frank James. Another thing, a credit card is amenable to getting fingerprints off. So all of these things are investigated.
As well as DNA, Bill. You could also get DNA.
Right, as well as DNA. So all of these forensic things they're early, they're in the infancy. We are so spoiled in this city that we have such a great police department. and great investigators, and they expect an arrest immediately, and there's going to be an arrest in this case, guaranteed, but it's going to take some time. You heard the superior officer or in charge of the FBI, a senior officer in charge, talking about that this is a massive investigation and no rock is going to be left unturned. They're going after everything. They're going to check everything out, cross their T's, dot their I's, as we say. Folks, this is Police Off the Cuff, real crime stories. If you like our channel, please go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, ring that bell. If you want to support us, go on our Patreon. We have 3 different levels. We also have a YouTube channel members, YouTube family. You see the folks in the green font in the chat. They're part of our YouTube family. If you want to join our YouTube family, we have 5 different levels to that. Jamie Pimentel, I agree, Detective Grimaldi. I never had any confidence in Eric Adams at all. I knew this all along. He wasn't going to have the courage. Folks, I don't specifically just want to target Eric Adams. I'm tired of politicians, period, because they do not back the police. And then they come out of the shadows during these incidents and they want to get their 10 seconds of camera time. And I know Hochul is no fan of the police. And the guy, the head of the MTA, is forever criticizing the police. He got his mic time too. And then when Adams comes on and he wants to talk about gun control after this heinous shooting, no, let's talk about the guys pulling the trigger. Let's put them in prison. But you don't want to talk about that.
Billy, we have a madman on the loose in New York City, and they want to get their political points across. This is not the time for that. Let's talk about what happened, what we know, what we can do to prevent it, and possibly capture this suspect. Getting his picture out there very quickly, I think that's a good thing to do. Now, listen, he might not be the actual shooter, but he's tied to that van. He's obviously a suspect somehow or another involved in this incident. He needs to be found and spoken to, obviously. So why can't we focus on that? Why does Hochul have to jump in there? And why does Adams have to do it from wherever he is, Gracie Mansion or whatever? If he's got COVID, he'd, like you said, either stay out of it 100% completely if he's that sick and he can't leave his residence, or put on a mask, put on the big boy pants, and get out to the scene. He could do it from 6 feet away from everybody. I don't say he has to be in the middle of it all day long. Show your face. Show you got courage. Lead the people of New York City. I mean, look what we had on 9/11 with Giuliani and with the police commissioner Carrick. They were out there. They were running towards the danger. They didn't run away from it. Come on, guys. I said it before. I'm saying it now. You need to show leadership in this case. I don't think he's that sick. He looks like he's fine to me. And if he puts on 2 masks and gets out to the scene and then go back home, he'll do a world of good for the people of this city instead of worrying about talking about gun control and their political, just the political nonsense. I don't even want to use that.
Folks, there's already a Dr. Phil on TV. I don't think we need another Dr. Phil making diagnoses here, but I'll take it. I want to just go back to the press conferences, the press conference, and listen to a couple of questions. And again, I'm really impressed with the NYPD police commissioner. I think she's great. And I wish that Adams would just let her take control of police incidents and step back. We don't need your captainly advice from a guy that didn't do much in his police career. Let her take over, Keechant Sewell. Let her talk because she knows what she's doing. Let's listen to her a little bit here.
Homelessness, he mentions New York, and he does mention Mayor Adams. And as a result of that, in an abundance of caution, we're going to tighten the mayor's security detail.
Just to be clear, so this person, Frank James, he's not the person of interest that is in custody.
I'm going to have to look it up.
We have no one in custody at this time. No, we are looking for Frank James. We know he rented this U-Haul van. The key of that U-Haul van was found at the crime scene in the sub.
And Mr. James made social media posts?
We're pouring through that, but yes, correct. We are looking to determine if he has any connection to the train. We know Mr. James rented that U-Haul truck in Philadelphia.
Folks, I have a question myself, and that's, you heard him say, we know that Mr. James rented that U-Haul truck. However, he also says we don't know if he has any connection to that train. So my next question would be, do we have a picture of Mr. James, and are we comparing that to the cell phone footage that people have taken of the possible perpetrator? And that's a question that I would like answered, but I don't know if the press will answer that question.
Posts, we cannot attribute it to that individual yet. That's under investigation. But again, in an abundance of caution, we're going to tighten the mayor's security detail. That's all.
Rocco, Daily News.
Does he have pictures? Does he have any connection at all? Right, it's just, is he a TA worker and any connection whatsoever to that subway station?
That is subject to investigation. We don't have that information yet.
Mr. James is just a person of interest we know right now who rented that U-Haul van in Philadelphia. The keys to that U-Haul van were found in the subway in our shooter's possessions. We don't know right now if Mr. James has any connection to the subway. That's still under investigation.
Chief Essex, do you have any what we call robust DNA evidence from the crime scene of the van?
The crime scene's still being processed now. The van is being processed and the subway crime scene is being processed. But it's too early right now to tell.
City, Katie.
Can you explain where this U-Haul was located? Was it nearby? And then also, I mean, you said you're investigating these videos, but can you confirm that it was him in the video or people that know? We're just trying to make that connection.
The video, the YouTube videos and the videos, there's a man who posted there, Frank James. We're still working to see if that's our person who rented the video.
And where was the U-Haul located?
Kings Highway in Brooklyn,
Kings Highway, what intersection?
30 West 4th and Kings Highway.
Is there anything more you can tell us about the content of the posts? And I know you said it wasn't a direct threat against the mayor. Can you tell us anything he said about the mayor that caused you to be
There were general topics of concern, and I don't want to go into too many details, security detail. We're just doing it just to be on the safe side. Complaints about homelessness, complaints about New York, nothing in general. I'm sorry, just general comments that cause us some concern that are subject to investigation at this point.
Why were there no working surveillance cameras in the station? Why did police radios not work in the station? And how much did those track?
Yeah, we know that there were 3 stations that the video wasn't working. We're still investigating that to see why or how those, whether it was a mechanical problem, electrical issue, why those videos weren't up.
Police radios?
There was no issues with police radios.
Reports that one of the first officers on scene said his radio wasn't working. He told one of the teenagers there to call 911.
Yeah, so patrol officers, officers who work topside, if you will, in patrol precincts, when they go down the station, they have to switch frequencies. It's a UHF versus VHF. So if they didn't switch the radio over to the VHF frequency, they would not be able to transmit down in the subway station. So it's user error. It wasn't a problem with the actual radio.
Bloomberg News.
How many officers are assigned to the 36th Street station? And were there officers able to function at all?
So we don't typically assign officers to subway stations. Officers patrol on a rotating basis. They ride trains, they come out, they patrol the stations. Patrol officers from the precincts stop, go down, they do station inspections. We've been doing that since January. So that station was patrolled several times today. There were no officers present in the station at the time of the shooting, but it had been patrolled several times on this calendar date prior to the shooting in the early morning hours.
Next question.
What do we know about Mr. James and his local ties to New York City?
Timmy?
We know Mr. James has addresses in Wisconsin and Philadelphia. As far as New York, it's still under investigation, but he's just a person of interest right now in this case. We know the shooter was entered the station on Kings Highway. So we're asking for anybody who knows from Kings Highway to 35th Street is 8 stops. Anybody who sees him with any information, please call Crime Stoppers. We literally have hundreds of detectives out in the field right now, pouring through video at train stations, the egresses, the recovery sites of the vehicle. So we hope to have clearer pictures of who we believe is the shooter.
Two more questions. CNN?
About the weapon that was recovered, has that been traced back to Mr. James at all? And is there any likelihood that, or how confident are investigators that he is the same person that pulled the trigger back?
That's as far as pulling the trigger, that's still under investigation. As far as the firearm is concerned, we know it's not part of a multi-sale. We know it's not stolen. We're working with our partners in the ATF to track back to the point of sale and then move forward on that gun.
Okay, last question.
Your physical description of James, does it match the description that's already been put out today?
Again, as I said, there was 2 smoke grenades thrown. We have various descriptions of height. I gave the description out of the man with the vest. We're looking through all possible leads on our person of interest.
I think if you look at our social media, you'll see 2 photos of the person of interest. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, folks, just to sort of recap what they said, they do not have a clear suspect in this case. That's why they're still asking for videos. Apparently, they do not have an identified perpetrator. The name Frank R. James, he's identified through the keys that were left on the scene for the U-Haul. And he, in fact, did rent that U-Haul that is connected to this case somehow because the keys were found at the crime scene. However, we still, according to this press conference, do not have an identification on the perpetrator. Could that change in an hour, in a minute, in several hours? Absolutely. But right now, this is how investigation works. They're digging and digging. They hope to get more video from along the transit stops, video possibly of from where the perpetrator exited the train station and perhaps entered the train station, video perhaps of who pulled up that video up to the location it's currently parked at. So all of these things take time, but it was clear in this press conference that there is no identified perp at this time. However, there potentially Mr. Frank R. James is a person of interest in regards to, we discussed the keys to that U-Haul that were found in the property of the perpetrator that was recovered, I believe, in the subway car.
Billy, I'm very familiar with the area where the vehicle was parked. The vehicle was parked on West 5th Street and Kings Highway. About 2 blocks down is the N-Line train that runs along the same as the RR along that area. Now, that vehicle probably was parked. He probably got onto the subway on the Kings Highway station and traveled down the line to around the 36th Street station. They said between the 59th Street station and the 36th Street station is when the shooting took place. So now what I believe happened is when you rent the vehicle, they give you 1 key. Now that key was found. So he probably exited the subway and hightailed it out of there some other way. He probably parked it at that location and entered the subway at Kings Highway. That's what it sounds like to me. They had the key, which it'll usually give the plate number of the vehicle on the key. That's a lot of times what they do in the tag. They were able to locate the vehicle. So now we have him backtrack to where he got on. On Kings Highway in that area, there are a ton of stores which probably all have video cameras out front of them. So they're going to be able to get that video. They're going to be able to recover that video. I'm sure if they've rendered that vehicle safe by now, whether or not there's any explosives in it, if it's booby trapped or anything like that. Maybe, maybe not. Let's hope that it's done. They're going to get a lot of physical evidence out of that. The Chief of Detectives talked about they're also going to not only examine the gun ballistically, they're going to examine the gun to see if there was fingerprints, DNA, but they're also going to run a check on the gun. He said the gun isn't stolen at this time. They may be able to figure out where that gun was purchased or how it got into the hands of his perpetrator. That may also be lead us to the perpetrator if he did make it out of the city, which is quite possible. In all the melee, he escaped, could have got on a subway and got onto a Port Authority bus or something like that. So he may or may not be still here, but I'm sure they're going to be able to track him down. There's going to be a ton of video evidence. As I said, along 4th Avenue, there's video cameras everywhere, as well as where he got onto the train, Kings Highway, same thing. There's a ton of video cameras in that area. And then you have the video camera that some of the trains are equipped with video cameras, as well as some of the stations. It sounds like 2 or 3 of the stations were out. I did confirm that with my source. So again, not critical that there was no video of that actual incident. However, the video in and around the areas where he entered and where he exited are going to be key to this whole thing.
Bando Joy Zep 7. Could there be more than one suspect, shooter, and James vehicle guy? Yes, 100% there could be. And that's why it's called investigation. We have to look into this and find out who all the players are. If there's more than one player involved in this thing, if there's some type of conspiracy, it takes time. Again, this is only it's happened at 8:26 this morning. So it's what, 10 hours old. So, it takes time. I think that Finest Bishop, James rented the U-Haul, but the person who carried it out is not him. I think you're right, Finest Bishop, because I think they would have compared the photos of Mr. James with the possible video or with witnesses that they have. They could have made a photo array of him from a DMV, a license, and they could have made a photo array and determined whether he was in fact the shooter. So I think they could.
I think there's also a little bit of a discrepancy that what they know about this person, James, that Frank James that rented the vehicle. I believe there's a height discrepancy. He was the perpetrator was described as being 5'5" and stocky. I believe the James that they're zeroing in on could be much taller. At least 4 or 5 inches tall or something of that nature. So there is a little bit of a inconsistency there. However, in the heat of investigation, as you know, Billy, in the beginning, the early stages, someone could be described as 5'5" and be 5'10" or, down. There's a lot of different things that happen in confusion.
Phil, I used to say when someone has a gun in their hand, they're 7 feet tall.
Yeah, exactly. Good point.
And,
Good point. So, people are confused. They're frantic to get away. They, in fear of their lives. Like you said, you're focusing on the gun. Maybe you're not focusing on the height of the individual. But from video cameras, video surveillance, you can get a good general description of height and weight and stuff like that. I do believe, though, there was a discrepancy between the person, James, that they're talking about renting the vehicle and the actual description of that they had in the early stages. However, all of those things are fluid and they're likely to change.
Lieutenant Peter Pranzo, Harlem Raiders. First of all, thank you for being here. You're a huge supporter of Police Off the Cuff. He responded, they probably know already. He's referring to the identity of the perpetrator, just not telling the media or the public. Lieutenant Pete, I agree with you. That's a distinct possibility, but there's also a possibility that they don't know. They're very close to IDing the guy, but there's a possibility that they don't know. But they will know shortly. And we can only hope that when they do know, they will put that information out there. The other thing you got to be concerned with in a case like this is that the perpetrator is able to jump on a plane and get the hell out of here. Since he's not officially been identified, they can't put like a stop on all the flights in the area or a warning, a bolo, be on the lookout for so-and-so because they don't have him specifically ID'd right now. So it's all of these are all great questions that we're asking, but we're not privy to the inside of this investigation. Michelle Roth, hi guys, and thank you for your service to the Big Apple. Would this be considered a hate crime if this area is known to have a lot of Asian residents? Michelle Roth, would only be considered a hate crime if a perpetrator targeted the individuals because of specific ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, something like that. Right now,
there is a large Asian community in that area. Along that line, there does happen to be, even from Kings Highway all the way down to 36th Street and then into 25th Street where the train was actually stopped. There is a lot of Asians in that area. I don't know if that's the case. I mean, if he only shot Asians or most of the people were Asian victims, then it could be possibly targeted. But I'm sure they're going to find out about it. Rest assured, the NYPD has the full resources of its police department working on this, and I'm sure it's just going to be a matter of time before they locate this person. Whether or not he's taken alive is another story. It depends on if he gives up or if he's on another suicidal rampage. We'll find out, though, who he is and what his motives were. They'll put a great picture together of exactly what happened. They've already backed up quite a bit. They got to the point where they know he got onto the subway, or they believe that. That's where the vehicle was parked. So again, we're getting bits and pieces. Like Lieutenant Franzo said, we don't know half of what they're putting. They're probably putting out only a small piece of what they know. We probably know half or less. So again, I have full confidence in the NYPD, greatest detectives in the world, and they will get to the bottom of this case.
Folks, one of the things that's been reported is that the gun jammed. If you fire a 9mm, and he fired 33 rounds out of this Glock, it can jam. It gets hot and it can jam. And he had 3 high capacity magazines. Yeah. Magazine's the correct term, I believe.
Yes, it is.
I usually say clip too, but I corrected myself in my brain before I said it. There was 3 high capacity magazines on the scene. And when a gun gets hot, especially a semi-auto, it is susceptible to getting jammed. So, and that's probably what happened. Frank Marsha, Bill and Phil, here in Florida, we now have politicians wanting an open carry law. As I said a few weeks ago, some people here should not have a driver's license, let alone a gun open carry. Sounds nuts. Yeah, look, I'm a pro Second Amendment. However, some areas get a little crazy with open carry. I think can be a little dangerous, especially if you've ever driven in Florida and all the road rage incidents they have. The last thing they need is everyone armed with a gun. So little road rage incidents become shootouts at the OK Corral.
Well, listen, obviously you need to have stable people with firearms, people that have safety class, safety training, and you can't have a criminal record and all of that. So, listen, if a lot of people do carry firearms, it's kind of a level playing field if someone tries to rob you and they have a firearm. But again, you're right, Billy. Not everyone should be carrying a firearm. There are some people that are just not cut out for it. They're unstable, whether they be unstable or unable to contain the firearm to themselves or carry it safely. So there's a big discussion there about that. But I am for the Second Amendment as well.
Absolutely. Folks, Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. Again, if you're not subscribed to us, please go on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We wanted to just come on today I think we only want to do about 35, 45 minutes just to give an update on this. And right now, it appears law enforcement's doing a fantastic job, and we're hoping for a quick identification of this perpetrator. Someone in the chat must have came in a little late. We know about Frank R. James. We watched the press conference with the police commissioner and the chief of detectives and chief of the department, and they indicated that Frank James is the person that rented the U-Haul, however, may not be the perpetrator. So we just want to make that clear. And when the investigation comes together and this becomes more clear, we'll come back on and we'll give you guys an update.
Billy,
Phil,
just real quick, I'm getting a picture of another person. It's not Frank James. It's another African-American male. They're saying this is a possible photo of the perp. I'm not going to send it to you or put it on or anything like that. It's unconfirmed and there's too much going on right now, but it does seem like things are very fluid. Someone sent me this photo. It says this is a possible photo of the perp. So again, it may or may not be Frank James involved in it. However, he did rent the vehicle, so that's going to be looked into. But the picture that I'm looking at is definitely not him. This does look like a shorter individual from the picture I have. It's not a full body picture, but the person does look smaller than what was described by James. But let's see. We'll look into it and we'll get further information. And if we have to, we'll come back on.
Emma Roth, good question. When people say the gun got jammed, what does it mean? It means that a round gets stuck in the chamber of the gun, and it causes the gun not to be able to slide to go back and forth. And that's when it's jammed, it cannot fire.
Bill, it's actually, you're correct 100%, but a lot of times the jam comes from the shell casing that gets ejected out of the firearm. It gets caught in the slide. And once they call that a stovepipe, where the bullet is ejected, but the shell casing sticks up and you see where the bullet used to be is sticking up. They call that a stovepipe because it looks like a chimney. It can be quickly cleared. If it's that type of a jam, you can just clear it quickly. But there are more complex jams where the bullet, the shell casing stays inside the barrel and it jams in there, doesn't get fully ejected. There's more complex jams, but yeah, basically that's the answer to that. It jams because the bullet doesn't eject from the gun. The shell
No,
case.
absolutely. I just wanted, it's good that Emma Roth, thank you for asking that question, because Duty Ron, NYPD strong, will get this perpetrator the greatest detectives in the world.
100.
Duty Ron, I know that you had surgery today. I hope you're feeling better. I saw that nasty knot on your head. It looked like you took a hit with a nightstick over the top of your head, but I'm hoping you feel better. I'm hoping you heal fast, and take as many ibuprofen or whatever you take for pain as you need. And we're all wishing Duty Ron a speedy recovery from his surgery.
Feel better, Duty Ron. Good man.
And thank you for the $10 super chat. Very, very much appreciated. So, guys, again, just to recap, and we're not going to kill this because we don't have, even being in this investigation, not everyone has up to the second, up to the minute information, but they're working on it. And they're going to get this guy identified, and there's going to be an arrest soon. And we have confidence in with that. Phil, final words.
Final words, full confidence in the NYPD, the ATF, the FBI. You have some great people out there working on this case. I think that the police commissioner showed that she knows what she's all about. She's a great asset to the NYPD. She's doing a great job. Chief Assig, Chief of Detectives, he's right in there. I have no doubt that we're going to come to a conclusion on this thing. They will tell us in time exactly what transpired. They'll figure out the motive. They'll figure out where this guy is. And let's just keep our fingers crossed, hope and pray that all of those injured recover fully and that there is no more bloodshed from this perpetrator, that he can be taken into custody without any incident. And God bless all of those, and speedy recovery again to those that were injured today.
Absolutely, folks. And for everyone in the chat, we hope that we gave you a pretty good update here. And we tried to, put our feelings in there a little bit. We're not journalists. If we were journalists, we'd be getting fired. But we're not journalists. This is the show. This is Police Off the Cuff, real crime stories. And we try to cover it like a real crime story. And that's to give you real police point of view about where the investigation's going. So, folks, if anything happens in the next 24 hours, we'll come back on the air and we'll give you another update. But until then, have a great night. Be safe, and we'll see you soon.
Stay safe, everyone.
One episode, just saying enough.